They say death doesn't knock, it whispers. And for one particular zodiac sign, that whisper isn't just a feeling. It's almost like a signal from the universe itself. Now, before you roll your eyes, let me tell you something chilling. There are countless reports, decades apart, from completely unrelated people, same birth sign, different lives, all describing the exact same thing. An unshakable sense, days, sometimes hours before someone dies. Not just a vague hunch. They smell it, they dream it, they know it. This isn't about psychic mediums or paranormal investigators. This is about ordinary people born under one specific zodiac sign who can somehow detect the end before it happens, whether they want to or not. I'll warn you now, the sign I'm about to reveal isn't the one people usually suspect. It's not the mystical Pisces or the mysterious Scorpio. It's actually a sign most people underestimate. But once you hear the stories, you might never look at the zodiac sign the same way again. The first case I found was from 1983 in a small coastal town in Maine. A 17-year-old girl, born in the first week of September, woke up in the middle of the night, sobbing uncontrollably. She told her parents she'd just seen her grandmother standing by the bed, saying goodbye. They brushed it off as a nightmare. By morning, they got the phone call. Her grandmother had passed away in her sleep, hundreds of miles away. Fast forward 2009, an office worker in London. Same zodiac sign, same early September birthday. He kept telling his co-workers that he felt a heavy air around a particular colleague. He didn't mean anything malicious. He just said it felt like something was draining the man's energy. 2 days later, that colleague died suddenly of a heart attack. And it's not just these two. Across forums, anonymous confessions, and old newspaper clippings, the same pattern emerges. The sign in question? Virgo. Yeah, the so-called perfectionist of the zodiac. The one we usually associate with planners, list makers, and neat freaks. But here's where it gets weird. Astrologers have quietly debated for decades whether Virgos have an unusually strong link to the sixth house, the house of health, illness, and mortality. Some claim their ruling planet, Mercury, gives them heightened perception of subtle changes, not just in people's behavior, but in their energy. Skeptics would call this observation and intuition, not psychic ability. But the line gets blurry when Virgos report feeling death, even when there's no visible sign something's wrong. And if you think this is just superstition, try explaining this. In a 1997 case, a Virgo nurse in California was nicknamed the Harbinger by her co-workers. Why? Because every time she mentioned that a patient looked like they were ready to go, that patient would pass within 24 hours. It happened 11 times in 1 year. Some people would give anything for a gift like that, to prepare, to warn others. But for most Virgos who experience it, it feels more like a curse. Imagine walking into a room, locking eyes with a stranger, and feeling that bone-deep certainty that you'll never see them again. By the way, if you're enjoying these strange and unsettling truths that the mainstream rarely talks about, make sure you hit like and subscribe to stay exposed. This is where we pull back the curtain on the weird, the hidden, and the downright eerie. Drop a comment too. I want to know if you've ever felt something like this yourself. Now, the strangest part? Many of these Virgo death sense stories involve dreams. Specific ones. People report seeing an empty chair rocking in the wind, a withered tree in the middle of a green field, or hearing a knock on the door with no one there. One Virgo man from Canada said that every time he dreamed of Blackwater, someone in his life died within 3 days. Science will tell you this is pattern recognition, mixed with coincidence. But if that's true, why is it almost always the same zodiac sign, reporting these eerily similar experiences? Then there's a theory nobody likes to talk about, that these Virgos aren't predicting death at all. They're sensing it because they're somehow connected to a network of energy that flows between all living things. When someone is close to death, that energy shifts like a light flickering before it goes out. And maybe, just maybe, Virgos are more finely tuned to notice it. One particularly disturbing account came from a Virgo woman in her 30s. She was on a crowded subway when she suddenly felt an overwhelming urge to get off at the next stop, even though it wasn't hers. As she stepped onto the platform, she saw a man sitting on a bench. She didn't know him. He didn't look sick, but something about his eyes made her chest tighten. That night, she saw his photo on the news. He collapsed on that very bench minutes after she left. Some say this is proof of an ancient connection, that Virgos, tied to the earth element, are natural sentinels of life and death cycles. Others think it's pure chance, and that if you ask enough people, you'll find similar stories from every sign. But that still doesn't explain the sheer consistency of these Virgo accounts. It makes you wonder, If they can sense death, could they also sense other life events? Could this gift be expanded? Or is it a burden meant to stay hidden? After all, if you told someone you could feel when they were about to die, would they believe you? Or would they think you just cursed them? The truth is, whether you believe in astrology or not, these stories hint at something deeper, a human ability we don't fully understand. Maybe we've all had moments like this, but we brush them off, too scared to think about what they mean. But for Virgos, it's harder to ignore. So here's my question to you. Do you think this is real? Or is it just a strange coincidence wrapped in zodiac superstition? Let me know in the comments. And remember, some signs are known for love, others for ambition. But for this one, the whispers of death are never far behind. There's one thing I haven't told you yet, something buried deep in astrological history that connects directly to the so-called Virgo death sense. In ancient Babylonian astrology, the earliest recorded form we know of, the section of the sky we now call Virgo, wasn't associated with harvest or purity. It was tied to the goddess Ereshkigal, the ruler of the underworld. According to myth, she had the power to weigh the breath of the living, deciding who would pass into the land of the dead. When Greek and Roman astrologers adopted the zodiac, they scrubbed away most of the darker symbolism, turning Virgo into the maiden of grain and purity. But some occult scholars argue that traces of that original underworld connection still remain, and that's why, even thousands of years later, people born under this sign can sometimes feel death approaching. Think about that for a second. A zodiac sign connected to life cycles, health, and the underworld's gatekeeper. That's not something you can just write off as coincidence. And it's not only mythology. There's a strange pattern in recorded history. Some of the most famous documented death dreamers, people whose visions accurately predicted deaths, were Virgos. One was a soldier in World War II who woke screaming the night before an entire section of his unit was ambushed. Another was a woman in the 1800s who correctly predicted the exact date her husband would die, and then, 10 years later, her own. Now here's where it gets unsettling. Several accounts suggest that ignoring these death warnings comes at a cost. In other words, if a Virgo senses death and says nothing, the burden doesn't go away. Instead, they report getting sick, losing sleep, or even experiencing near misses themselves. Almost like the message demands to be spoken. Could this be superstition? Absolutely. Could it also be a survival instinct hardwired into certain people's DNA? Possibly. After all, animals can sense earthquakes, storms, and predators before they arrive. Why couldn't some humans sense the end of a life? And maybe, just maybe, the real conspiracy here is whether it's real or fake, but why it's not talked about more. Maybe there's a reason astrology books don't openly mention Virgo's connection to death. Maybe we're not meant to know which of us can feel it coming. Because once you know, you can't unknow. So if you're a Virgo or you know one, pay attention. If you get that strange heaviness in your chest, if you dream of black water or an empty chair, if the air feels different around someone, you might be picking up on something that's been whispered to the stars for thousands of years. And if that's the case, what will you do with that knowledge? Warn them? Stay silent? Or pretend you didn't feel it at all? Some say death doesn't knock. But for one zodiac sign, it doesn't have to. They already know it's there. If you made it this far, you're probably asking yourself one question. If this is true, how many times has a Virgo been near you when something happened and just didn't say anything? The eerie truth is, most of them don't talk about it. Many learn the hard way that if you tell someone you sense their death, you risk panic, fear, or even being blamed when it happens. So instead, they keep quiet. They carry the weight alone. And that might be the most chilling part. Because if these stories are to be believed, there could be people walking among us right now who already know someone's time is almost up. They smile to go about their day. But deep down, they've already said goodbye. We've been taught to think of death as unpredictable, sudden, uncontrollable. But for some Virgos, it's not about predicting death. It's about feeling its presence, like a shadow creeping into the room. And once they've felt it, there's no unfeeling it. So, whether you believe in astrology, energy, or nothing at all, here's something to think about tonight. The next time a Virgo looks at you with that quiet, searching expression, what do you think they see? If you felt the chills listening to this, hit that like button, subscribe to Stay Exposed, and drop your own eerie experiences in the comments. You never know, your story might be the next one we uncover. Because the universe has secrets, and some of them are written in the stars.